Good evening, everybody, and welcome to Surf Life Saving New South Wales rock fishing drowning prevention evening. And thank you for all coming. I'm really looking forward to a fruitful evening this evening. My name's Phil Ayres. I'm the Chief Operating Officer at Surf Life Saving New South Wales. And I'd firstly like to acknowledge the traditional custodians on the land on which we meet today or this evening and pay my respects to elders past and present. We have a few special guests here tonight, and a number of them will be on panels. So I'd particularly like to welcome Gurnam Singh, who's the founder of the Australian Indian Sports Educational and Cultural Society. The Sutherland Shire Councillors Laura Cowell and Mayor Carmelo Pesci, and I know Carmelo is on one of the panels this evening. Chris Lacey, who's the CEO of the Multicultural Communities Council of Illawarra, and Feroz Sattar, the founder of Swim Brothers. And we had a tremendous occasion last weekend where a number of participants in the Swim Brothers program graduated through to their bronze medallions as fully fledged lifesavers. So a tremendous program that we've been really excited to be involved with. An apology from the Mayor of Bankstown, Bilal El Halak. He unfortunately had other commitment this evening, so he sends his apologies. As you know, our primary role as Surf Life Savers is between the flags, but that's changed and emerged over recent years, and we're doing a lot more work along the entire coastline. And a lot of that involves responding to incidents that happen with rockfishers. And fortunately, we're able to save many of those, but unfortunately there's times when that doesn't happen, and those rescues end up becoming recoveries, which is very sad indeed, both for the families involved and our lifesavers and lifeguards who go out and undertake those duties. So this evening is a really important opportunity for us to listen to a number of experts and people who have experienced challenges or near drownings from rock fishing activities and to learn and to take some of those lessons back home to our families, friends and communities. We've had a tremendous program this year with our rock fishing prevention seminars around the state or along the coastline. This year we've done 10 days at various venues. We've given over 1,000 life jackets out to participants, which is a tremendous accomplishment supported by Hobie, who provided those life jackets, with 97% of those surveyed who went on to rockfish wearing those life jackets. So that's a great result and something we hope to build on in future years. We did 203 education sessions across all of those days, and we reached over 4,900 participants at those community days, the vast majority being from culturally, linguistically diverse communities. So it was tremendous to be able to reach out to those communities, many from Western and Southwestern Sydney, and to share some important messages about rock fishing safety. And from that, and you'll see some of these tonight, we were able to produce 5 new multicultural education videos. Tremendous work by our media team and our community ed team to bring those videos to life. So in closing, I'd just like to thank you all again for your attendance tonight and your participation. I'm really looking forward to hearing from the panels. We've got a number of panels and discussions today. And in handing over to the MC, I'd like to welcome a very keen rockfisher himself. I'm probably looking for some tips on where to actually go fishing to catch the fish. So I'd like to welcome Hadi Tathar. I've probably got that wrong, haven't I, Hadi? So I welcome you, and you're going to take us through the night and share these different panels throughout the evening. Thanks, Hadi.
Thanks, Phil. I was a lot taller than I am. Okay, so bear with me. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Hadi Taha. Firstly, I'd like to, bear with me. Firstly, I'd like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land where we stand tonight, the Daruk and Eroa people. A bit about me, just quickly. I've been in the financial services industry for over 16 years now. I'm a father, I'm a husband. I've got 4 kids over here. They're just right in front of me. And I'm a crazy rock fisherman. It's probably not the right mix that you hear about, someone in the financial services industry, but also a crazy fisherman. But they're out there. My story with rock fishing started 10 years ago. One of my mates asked me to go fishing, and it was straight to rock fishing. No clue about equipment, safety, conditions. We just headed out. We went to Kmart, got a couple of rods and reels, and we headed to, I think it was Snapper Point at the time. And yeah, from there we just kept on going with no idea. 10 years ago, there was not much information out there about rock fishing or safety at all, other than people on YouTube and Facebook showing their big fish. There wasn't really any safety awareness out there, so it was really difficult for us to find out about this type of information. And we kind of had to learn on the fly, so we had to learn on the go. And there's been some hairy moments and some incidents that I won't talk about because my wife is just right here, and she won't be happy if I tell you what's happened to myself and my mates. We've got a bit of a presence on YouTube and Facebook. My mates and I, we're known as Team Kingies, and most of our material is entertainment. Some of it is about fishing, and there's also stuff about safety. And one of those videos reached out to Julia, who's the backbone of this whole program. And yeah, that video was an incident that happened to myself, and we'll just have a quick look at that incident. If we can play that video, thanks. Okay, I'm just watching the conditions here, and I can see things are starting to get a bit dangerous, especially this wave here. And then you can see that wave right behind it is just rolling in. Now I've just noticed it. The worst thing I could have done was turn around. So you can see the wave was actually hitting me at that point, was the highest point of the wave. Now Rolly's running towards me. He's not going to jump in there. There you go. I get hit by the wave and get pushed across the rocks, get scratches. I'm in the rock pool now. I wasn't sure if it was a rock pool. I've got my face mask on so you can hear me trying to breathe. But I've got my rod and I'm trying to hold the life jacket, not knowing if I should pull the life jacket. But then I've realized it's only a pool, so I'll just wait for the wave. I've got a bit of traction on the rocks there, so I don't get pushed further, but I'm not sure if there was going to be another wave. Alright, I'll take my face mask off now, and Rolly realizes that it's safe. He comes in and helps me out.
Is this a pool? Is this real?
There you go. What I have to say, it was just miscalculation. I turned to that. We arrived at that spot early in the morning, and everything looked relatively fine, but something was off. And we said this to each other. There were 2 of my mates there at the time, and we continued on anyway. And there you go. You'll get one of those waves coming in, and when you least expect it. And look, thank God, I'm still okay. I'm still here. But I think the worst thing about it was my wife saw that video for the first time on Channel 7 News. And it wasn't a good discussion. But we've had worse. We've had worse. I'm sorry to say, but we have had worse in the past. My mates have been in situations where they have fallen in the water and were able to get back on land. We've had broken ankles, had a friend that was concussed because he fell down, hit his head. So there's a lot of things that we've experienced that I'd like to share and my mates like to share, and that's why I'm involved with this particular project. When Julia reached out to me and asked me if I want to be involved, I kind of hesitated, but then I realized we can do some good work here. And since then, I've been ambassador for the Surf Life Saving Rock Fishing Project. I've worked with, for the last, I think it was over a year and a half now, with the team and a number of other great organisations to support the education and the program. And tonight, we'll be discussing and examining some of the fishing-related incidents, as well as some of the engagement that we've been doing with these initiatives. We'll have several panels come up to discuss rock fishing. Some of them will be rock fishermen, and some from the organisations that we've worked with. We'll also be seeing two videos that we'll be releasing regarding rock fishing. So, we've got a couple of stats there up on screen as part of the program. 1,080 life jackets handed out along with education, because it's no use having a life jacket but not knowing what to do with it when you're in a bad situation. 203 educational sessions, as mentioned earlier by Phil, and 4,912 community members educated. I'm pretty sure that's including kids also that came along. A couple of other stats there: 10 coastal rock fishing safety sessions, 18 classroom sessions, and 55 early childhood sessions. So we've been busy. And personally, myself and my mates, we've seen people out there wearing these life jackets. These guys are actually using it. Some of them recognise me and my mates, some of them don't. But every time we see it, it puts a smile on our face, knowing that people are actually following our education and what we're trying to teach them. Guys, throughout the night, if you want to participate, if you've got any thoughts or anything, you can do that via Slido. I'm pretty sure Slido is an Australian company. That sounds like an Australian company, Slido. But if you want to do that, you can do it on your phone and send through your comments. All right, we'll start with the first panel. Our panel guest today, or tonight, we'll be discussing coastal rock fishing safety sessions that we've been running for over 12 months now. And guys, if you can come up and take your seats, it'd be great. So we have George Manor from New South Wales Department of Primary Industries, and he's the Fisheries Community Relations Manager. We have Chris Jacobson, Manager for Emergency Management Capability for Transport New South Wales. We have my mate, my fishing buddy, Spiros Vasiliadis, the President for the Australian Land-Based Anglers Association. We also have Carmelo Pesci, who's the Mayor for Sutherland Shire Council, and Mike Anderson, the Multicultural Community and Youth Education Officer for Surf Life Saving New South Wales. Welcome, gents. So you've all been involved in one way or another in this coastal rock fishing safety project, and some of you guys are actually key ambassadors as part of the program. I'll start with you, Mike. You were part of the team that led the program and the project. What was the goal, and was it successful?
Yeah, it certainly was successful, and the goal, there were many goals, and that was to educate at-risk communities, featuring members of multicultural and coal communities in Western Sydney. And the way that we did that was engaging with many of the stakeholders that I've been working with for many years. And it was about listening to those communities and making sure that they understood the dangers. And as you said earlier, it's by giving out a valuable asset in a life jacket, but without education seemed a bit daft. So we got all of the expertise and knowledge from all the key stakeholders that are sat here, and put together a fantastic program that was fun, it was engaging, it was multifaceted. You could bring your family, so it definitely achieved those goals. And the feedback that we've had from stakeholders, many of whom I work with, has been really good. So yeah, it's the team is happy, and it couldn't happen without the other guys that are sat here too. That's great.
We also had good food during their sessions. I've got to call that out. Just a couple of stats here. 99%, I don't know if it's up there, 99% of the participants rated the day excellent or good. 95% of participants confirmed they learned something new. So there was 5% that were experts at those events. I'd like to meet some of those 5%. George, you've been involved in rock fishing education for years, right? with your experience and over the years, how do you feel things have changed over time and evolved?
Well, for me, I started working with fisheries 40 years ago, and I was introduced to rock fishing in about 2003. So my experience was limited at that time. The experts that were passionate about rock fishing and educators I worked with in early 2003 onwards, and they were great statesmen for our rock fishing as ambassadors, right? And one of those people is here tonight, is Alex Bellissimo. Alex, if you can show your hand up, where are you, Alex?
It's putting you on the spot there, Alex.
Right. And anyhow, Alex, I have to tell you honestly, like, limited to what I knew. He's the man, he started very little, and of his background, being a cultural background person, as well as another gentleman by the name of Stan Tansaradas and Malcolm Poole and Paul Cooper. Now, we work with the Wreck Fishing Alliance in Fisheries and Surf Lifesaving New South Wales and Maritime and Police and various other organisations in multicultural communities. So at that time it was really difficult. We were starting off before the life jacket started, but we tried to find ways of delivering the message. And for what I've learned over the years is that showing and telling the fishers, whether it be life jackets, whether it be the shoes, the rock fishing cleats, whether it be wearing light gear and all that sort of important stuff, and how they go hand in hand. That's not just the life jacket that will save you, understanding the weather conditions, all those things. We've only got better as time. So these sessions that we've done for the last 12 months with the experts, with you, Hardy, and Ahmed and Spiros, and the rest of the Surf Lifesaving team, it's brilliant. To me, what I've seen the changes are, the Surf Lifesaving community are really passionate about making sure people are safe on the water. Now, rock fishers are one of those people. And the activities of having people in the water wear life jackets, the Surf Lifesavers put themselves in a situation where they were rescuing people and showing us how it's done, telling us the different situations that they might get into. That was fantastic. As far as I saw, that's something that we need to continue. Education and more education for the future is what's going to matter for us and our community. Yep.
That's great. Appreciate it. Thanks. I learned quite a bit from Alex's videos. And I think all of us have. If we rock fish, we know who Alex is. Appreciate it. Thanks, George. Carmelo, one of these sessions was run in your local area, the Southern Shire. I'm a St. George boy myself. There's a bit of competitiveness there. What are your views on these sorts of educational sessions, and what are the benefits for your community?
Look, they're very important, and the reason why they're important, like any sport, you play a sport, you show up with the right equipment. You go fishing, there's no different. And for us in the Shire, we have a lot of venues where you can go fishing all the way from Kurnell all the way into the National Park. We want you to come and visit our areas. But we want you to go home, back to your families. And we don't, you need to enjoy what you do. And so it's very, very important that when you go fishing, that you understand the conditions, the weather, the footwear. As you saw in the video, there was moss on the rocks, so you must wear the appropriate footwear. Life jackets are important because if you do get thrown in, that is a do or die. You could survive having a life jacket. We've had people fall into the water and unfortunately pass away, and they're the ones that haven't had life jackets on. It's not a good thing for our lifeguards to go back and pull the bodies out of the water, for one, and two, then someone telling that family member that, that member's not going to come back home. So you need to enjoy, but be very safe. Understand the conditions, and don't turn your back onto the conditions. Can just change within a split second. So our guys, we had an information centre. We back in February, the 25th of February, and we showed people, just because you've got a life jacket, you need to understand how to wear it properly. And we then, our lifeguards also then had a scenario. They fell into the water, and we demonstrated and showed them how you get saved, what's involved. We patrol our areas. We've got jet skis. We've got a lot of signage with different languages. So it's important, very, very important.
Thanks, Camilo. A couple of days ago, someone fell in. It was just south of your area. So I don't know if he was wearing a life jacket, but he was quite elderly. He was 71 years old. And I believe we haven't found the body yet. So it's quite unfortunate. Thanks for that feedback. Spiros, mate, apparently your sessions was the highly rated sessions just behind mine. No,
News to me.
mine was way down the list. No, it was really highly rated. A lot of the feedback was quite positive, and I've got one here where someone said the most useful part of the event for me was the seminar regarding how to read the weather conditions, including swells and tide. I've been fishing for years but never understood this. I finally get it. There was also really good comments on wind direction and the website to use prior to going, such as sea breeze and surf forecast. So what is it about your sessions that you believe was a huge impact?
Alrighty. Well, look. First of all, I want to thank everybody for giving me that feedback, and I'm quite humbled by it. I guess the only thing that I can put it down to is that I've been rock fishing 25 years. I've got a decent amount of experience. There's hundreds of people out there with vastly more experience than what I have. But when I first started out, the only way that we could learn about rock fishing was to try and read something or talk to somebody about something. And I remember I rock fished for about probably a good 8 years before I completely understood the swell cycles and the periods. The differences between a 6 or an 8 second wave as opposed to a 16 second wave or even higher. It took me at least a few years before I could understand the correlation between swell direction and the location that I was actually fishing on. And like Hardy, I got a little bit wet in the beginning as well and got knocked off my feet as well. But as my experience grew, and I learnt so much off the experienced fishermen around me, rock fishing got safer because I could check before I went out. Okay, what's going to happen today? Okay, I'm going to go out there, but at sometime today, maybe around that 2 o'clock mark, it's going to go from northeast to south, and it's going to bump up a couple of meters, and I'm facing south. So I probably need to be really careful. As soon as I see a change, I'm out. And I thought to myself when I was given the opportunity from Julia to present this information, I thought I really should, because it's not my information. It's the culmination of decades of experience from hundreds of experienced fishermen. And when that knowledge gets passed down, the incidences of not just people dying, and rock fishing is not just about you go in the water and you die. You can get hurt. You can break ankles, get a gum nut and gravel garnish, you're just sort of sliding across the rocks. If you stand in the wrong spot, you get hurt. If you stand in the wrong spot 5 meters away from that, you get dead. Same wave. And it gave me the opportunity, I guess, to be able to show people, if the rocks behind you look like this is what the wave's going to do when it hits them. If the rocks behind you look like that, this is what you're able to do. And I think just that experience really helped me to pass on that information. The other thing as well, I talk fast and I think fast. I think I do anyway. So, me and Anthony, we could squeeze a lot of information into a half-hour session. I think that helped as well, just being able to talk real fast. Yeah. But and thank you for everyone that attended the sessions. You listened really well. It was great. It was an honour to be able to present that information to you, and I'm glad it made a difference.
It's been great. It's been great. Research from the University of Melbourne suggests that rock fishing fatalities occur when the surf appears calm. Amateur fishermen unaware there can be long gaps in between sets of dangerous waves. Question for you, Spiros, is what do you think rock fishers are most naive about when it comes to understanding conditions?
Rock fishers is a very big definition. I mean, I guess if you get on the rock with a fishing rod, you're a rock fisherman. I don't consider it like that. You're a rock fisherman when you have a certain level of experience in my books. I think experienced rock fishermen can understand that a long second cycle wave, even though it looks calm, you can see that thing coming. There's that mild little bump and she's out. And when it gets near you, that thing is going to rise and it's going to roll over the rocks. So yes, that can look calmer. Whereas your shorter periods waves, even though they're the same height, because they're a shorter period, yeah, it looks bumpier, but they're not. So I guess I think the biggest naivety is that it would be when, actually there's two. I'm going to go to two. Not being able to understand the period seconds between the waves is a real big one. It's 1.5 meters, it's 1.5 meters, or 2 meters, it's 2 meters. Not understanding that there can be so much more power in a long period cycle wave. The other one is not checking the conditions on an app to see what's going to happen before you go. So many rock fishing deaths have happened because the conditions have changed predictably while people have been out there and swung direction by 180 degrees or 120 degrees. They're gone from the northeast to the south or from the south to the east, and that gets you exposed. And when you're out there, some of these changes can literally happen within a matter of an hour. And in 1 hour, you can have a change that goes from northeast to 3 meters southerly and you're in it. And without knowing that that's happening, you do not have time to react. You should actually not even be there in a condition like that. And some people do. And hopefully the training that we provide prevents people from making those potentially fatal mistakes. Yeah.
When I go fishing with Spiros, he still talks like that. We talk about it all the time. Thanks, Spiros. About life jackets, lots of feedback, lots of good feedback on the life jackets and the education that came with it. A couple of quotes here. I wasn't aware of the relatively scary possibility that life jacket, if not fitted correctly, is absolutely useless. The live demos of the life jackets on the day at Kurnell were extremely real, and that was in relatively calm waters. Another one here, I am really grateful for the life jacket because normally I would not be able to afford it. Now I go rock fishing and feel extra conscious of safety as I am now equipped with knowledge and safety gear. Those life jackets we were handing out, they're worth $160 a pop per life jacket, so they're not cheap. Really good quality jackets. And the last comment here, the safety jacket part was, the safety jacket part which taught us different types was something I completely didn't know about. So the education was quite vital. Chris, we handed over 1,000 life jackets. I thought the limit was 1,000, apparently we went over it. And obviously the education that we talked about, what do you feel this is a vital part of the program?
Look, the really big thing, as we've talked about, with the amount of life jackets that's handed out, was the fact that everybody that came to that clinic got a dedicated life jacket that was fit for purpose for them. And to go away knowing that, if you go to the general store and buy a life jacket, you're not necessarily sure that is that the right life jacket that's going to be fit for purpose for the activity that you're doing. And to me, that was the really big call out, that we knew that those participants going away had been measured up, sized, and were very comfortable in the life jacket that they've got there. Following on from that, just the education around it and knowing that what the life jacket should be used for and what sort of types of environments that it can be worn in. And, in the aquatic environment, there's lots of different activities that we do. And, we sort of really demonstrated that in the practical activities of showing A, around what happens if you don't wear the correct life jacket, but B, also what happens if you're wearing a different life jacket in terms of inflatable and the potential risks that come with that, particularly around snagging your hooks and that sort of factor that falls into it. And, really for us, I think even as a team, being involved with the clinic was the fact that we knew that, A, people are understanding it, but B, people are understanding the importance of wearing a life jacket. And what's really scary is when we look at the evidence, and it plays a big part here, is that 80% of the fatalities that are occurring did not have a life jacket on. And the key message for us is we know that life jackets help to save lives, right? And that was a really big selling point that we wanted to be involved in, is pushing across, A, make sure that you've got their life jacket, make sure that it's fit for purpose, and that it is appropriate for you. And I suppose, again, the evidence is showing us that even those that are regularly rock fishing out of a survey done, were 49% have a life jacket. And what was really scary is that only 24% of them actually wear it when they go rock fishing regularly. So the purpose of what we wanted to get across was A, around that, of the importance of wearing it, but also around the importance of knowing the different types of jackets for environments. So you might be rock fishing one day, but what happens when you go fishing in your boat? And what sort of life jacket do you need for when you do go in your boat versus what happens when you go fishing on your kayak? And being able to talk through those sort of steps, and then also understanding how do you service your life jacket? So, it's really good to have a life jacket, but do we actually know what to check for before we go out each time? And just going through some simple safety checks of your jacket. And then even further, if you've got an inflatable life jacket, which you're wearing for different types of activities, is actually just being able to talk through some of those simple steps around, this is what you need to do in terms of your annual servicing. These are how you do some of these checks, because that to me is absolutely fundamental. And it's a really important part that we want everybody going rock fishing to know. And our aim ultimately is to make sure that every single person that goes rock fishing has a jacket. And to see that we gave away over 1,000 life jackets as part of that clinic is really exciting.
Chris, just back to your point about rock fishers having life jackets but not wearing them. Why is that? Do you have any insights on that?
I think there's a number of different factors that come into play here, and primarily to me it comes down to the education of not understanding the benefits of life jackets. It's a generational change that's very much come in terms of people understanding the impacts of a life jacket, and over time is getting that education out around the importance of wearing a life jacket and how critical that is. And then the other, I suppose, the important thing is, we're still trying to socialise the norm around life jackets, and the fact that it's the number one thing when you hop in a car and you start to drive. The first thing you do is you put on your seatbelt, and that to us is really the big key message, is that when you're going, the first thing that we really want to make sure, well, one of the things that you have with you is your life jacket. There's a number of other things that you want to take, but that's very much the challenge of trying to get people educated, and trying to get that involvement and uptake from society in general.
Yeah, I think it's a cultural thing. It definitely is. Thanks, Chris. We've got a couple of stats here. There was 400 surveys sent out via email to participants that attended throughout the year. 97% has worn their life jackets for rock fishing. Like I said, we've seen them out there wearing them. 94% identify that they now felt more confident on how to stay safe. That's massive. Some massive numbers. And And that doesn't speak to the fact that these people will go out and also speak to their families and their friends and their fishing group. So the impact is huge. Back to you, Mike. There was a real range of people that attended these events, right? There were experienced fishermen, there were new rock fishermen, people from different cultural backgrounds, people from different parts of New South Wales. Almost all of them walked away with something new and gaining a new confidence in rock fishing, rock fishing safety to be exact. What do you feel was attributed to this sort of success with such a varying group of people?
I think firstly doing the research and engaging with the key stakeholders of what that information needed to be as part of an educational workshop. So getting the stakeholders on board to segment that information that they were going to receive. A key part was obviously engaging with the multicultural communities and not just telling them, having conversations and meetings and asking them what they need to know, what do they want, how is the best way to engage these communities. Is it something visual like the demonstrations, which we found were really successful, but also it gives us as an organisation and a team to create the content for afterwards that keeps that ongoing. And the fact that we had the opportunity to, do these programs on the beautiful coastline, but not forgetting there was also programs at TAFEs and schools as well. And to steal a phrase from my friend Faraz here, generational change is what we're really after here, not only in surf life saving and around beach and ocean safety, but, rock fishing as well, because, every life that we can save is really, really valuable, but making sure that people have access to that knowledge that they wouldn't normally have, whether it's in their own language, whether it's through religious leaders or youth groups. So really getting an understanding of what the community that are most at risk need, and then delivering it, through a fantastic collaboration such as this.
Or through YouTubers. Okay, well, I'll open up to the floor just on the back of that. What else can we do to further improve these sessions? And is there anything that we should be focusing on to further improve it? Looks like you want to speak there, George?
Yeah, just through my experience, there was quite a few cultures through the sessions. Some spoke broken English, some were having a hard time understanding, but they were really keen to learn. I think moving forward for the future, if possible, where we can actually have, let's say, a Chinese group, a Korean or Vietnamese, because we've done that in the past and it's worked. And hopefully we can do the same moving forward.
Yeah, that's a great point.
And with translators. So they would also, it'll be in their language and we can have the translators as well involved.
That's a great point. I think a couple of the sessions we had, people were sitting there and they had their sons or their daughters translating for them. But that's a really great point. Do you have a Spiros?
Slightly more than half an hour, and I'll give you guys a lot more info. Or talk a lot slower.
That's a great point. Thanks. Carmela, do you have anything that you'd like to add in terms of improvements?
Yeah, look, these sessions are thick. Thank you. It is important, as I just said earlier, you need to understand the conditions. And as it was said earlier, the way the waves come in and wear the right equipment. It was talked about, 24% don't wear life jackets, but they take them with them. That could be a number of reasons. That could be that, and just off the top of my head, it could be that they think it won't happen to me. And they go, I won't need that. It just takes that one freak wave, and if you knock your head and you're unconscious, the jacket's what's going to save you to keep you afloat. So it's very, very important. And I'm not quite sure, but where you maybe buy your equipment, where you buy your bait, where you buy your fishing rods, there could be education there. So you go out and buy your bait shop, or you go and buy a rod. Maybe they get delivered a pamphlet to understand education.
That's a great point. Is anyone taking notes?
I just want to make
I didn't want to take notes.
I just want to make a really quick comment on that. With that, the mayor used the term "freak wave," and I want to say something about that as well. A lot of people say they got hit by a freak wave. I don't think there's that many freak waves out there. There's a lot of inexperience in being unable to actually ascertain how big that wave is that's coming towards you, or not understanding that the conditions have now changed and it's coming from a different direction, and not making the appropriate, not basically getting out of there because it's just changed direction on you, okay? And life jackets are like seatbelts. I've said this in my courses before and I'm going to say it again, but that is all they are. Education is the key. You throw the keys to somebody to a V8 and say drive safely, wear your seatbelt, and put them on the freeway, bad things are going to happen. All right? The rocks are just like that, okay? You need to be able to know how to drive that car, and part of that is literally being able to understand the conditions, read the conditions, and then also how to fish on those rocks so that when you do catch a fish, you don't go doing something really silly, because a lot of people go in while rock fishing while trying to land fish. They go down too low because they don't have the right gaff. They go too close because they don't have the right rod. Okay, they don't know how to wash a fish up. All of these things contribute to wash-ins off the rocks, and these are things that don't get talked about, that need to get talked about. And this is why I think our sessions are really important. You can talk about, safety measures, but that's all they are. Safety measures are safety measures. Knowing how to drive, knowing how to do it properly is so much more important. You don't need your seatbelt if you don't actually get into an accident.
We cover all these points on those sessions, so it's some great points here. I mean, that video you saw me where that happened. We call it a freak wave at the time, but looking back, we saw it coming. We knew it wasn't a good day out, but we took the chance, and you pay with something like that. So some great points there, some great discussions there. Before we wrap this up with this panel, I'd like each one of you to just maybe give one sentence on why we should continue this program. We'll start with Mike. We'll start with you, Camille.
The main reason is you want to go home to your family. That's it. You want to stay alive and you want to go home to your kids. You want to go home to your wife. You go out and enjoy yourself. But really, as you said, you've got 3 young kids there. You want to go home to your family and watch your family grow up. That's the main thing.
Thanks, Camille. Chris?
I really think you've summarised that really, really well. To me, it's absolutely the fact that we know that we can prevent these fatalities occurring, and there's lots of things that we can't control in our lives, but this is absolutely one thing that we can control. And I could not agree with your point. More around the fact that education. There's a number of tools that we can put in place to support it, but ultimately we've got to have that education, and that's why this program is so vital, and that's why we need to spread the message and continue to promote that in the community, right across our lovely state.
Yeah, everyone covered that. It's, for us, it's about education, continuing to develop the networks and the relationships we have with the multicultural communities, and just making sure that we deliver based on, what they need, and just keep moving forward.
Yes, it is all about education. The issue that we have is that there are newcomers coming in, new fishers, new rock fishers, people that want to go out and rock fish. So they're new, they need to be educated. The ones that have attended our sessions, the majority of those people I found with the questions is that they haven't fished very much, probably once, or would like to go rock fishing. So they're right at the start. So they need to be continuously reminded and educated with safety, all the things that we're trying to teach them to make sure that they're safe and they go back home to their loved ones. Yep.
Great point. Thanks, George.
I personally think we should run more sessions. However, I think we should run them in the off season, because It goes back to what you said, George. The people that are already fishing, we have limited time. We have our families, and I know with myself, I gave up a lot of fishing time to actually present these sessions. And there would have been a lot of people that had that had a few years of experience that probably would have benefited quite a bit, that said, well, I kind of know how to rock fish, so I'm just going to go fishing this weekend. And I think by running them at the appropriate times of year, we would then be able to attract those fishers and actually educate them. But yeah, more sessions and let's rock and roll.
Thanks, Spiro. Yeah, there's a couple of sessions there where Spiro and I look at the water and we're like, wow, would have been perfect conditions. But anyway, we were. All right, well, that's been great discussion. Thank you, gentlemen. And we'll move on to the next session. We do have a couple of questions that's come through, so I'll bring that up in our next panel discussion. Now, I'd like to introduce our first short film of the night, and it's Aura's story.
My name is Hong Yang. You also can call me Aura. I'm coming from China. I've been in Australia since 2006. I started fishing at 2013. The day is 14th of October 2014. On that day, I come in with two of my friends into this spot where I'm standing. After we park the car, because at that day I carry my salary around $2,000, and I think to keep my wallet with me. So I changed all my gear, and we carry all the fishing gear for the walking. And then around 30 minutes we went to the spot. The reason why we pick up this spot because that day is big swell and maybe around 2 meters or 1.8 because this spot is a cliff. So when we're standing on the cliff, it's very safe. When we arrive, it's low tide. We are thinking that it's safe area. That's the reason why I didn't put on my clip, because I can't see any water coming up to the spot. But on that day, I just lazy to put the clip on because I think it's safe. After we fishing for a couple hours, both of my friends they caught fish, but I got nothing. So I may be a little bit pressure, and then I want to try harder going further to go fishing. So that's the reason why I step onto the wet area step onto the black algae. There's nothing coming, just I personally slip into water. Yeah. I didn't hit my head, and 2 seconds later, I just float onto the top of the water. And then the first thing I remember is to handing my fishing rod and fishing reel to my friend, because that spot is 5 meters height. So my friend used the net to grab my rod first, and then I trying to find somewhere to escape, because it's freezing and I don't want to stay in the water. I want to get out. I'm just thinking, I did a stupid thing. Why I didn't put my clip on? And the second thing is, I telling me to tell myself to calm down, and then trying to find a way to escape. My friend calling the 000 for help. They told me afterwards the first phone, because at that side the signal is not very good, so the first phone is cut off. And they called a couple of times, and they finally reached the life-saving guard. I tried to swim maybe 10 meters further. When I look, both sides is all more than 1,000 meters the rock, so I can't climb anywhere. Once the swell coming, they pull me down into the water again. After 30 minutes, I'm feeling freezing and scary, and also is desperate. I'm thinking no one coming to save me. Luckily, the life-saving guard, they having the jet boats coming into the area to search me and then bring me onto the boats. After I'm landing on the beach, I can see the life-saving guard, the ambulance, and also the police officer. They already at that side. Actually, when I checked the news the next day, I saw here 3 people dropping into water, and also the newspaper said that the other 2 guys already died. So I'm the lucky angel on that day. The main reason is because I wear the life jackets, and also wear the life jackets with the correct way, because some people, they wear the life jacket, they forgot to clip the bottom line, so this is the main spot. But I also did a stupid thing, is I didn't wear the clip for my boots, so that's the reason why I fell into water. But luckily I remember to wear life jackets every time when I'm fishing. I didn't tell my parents. Yeah, it's a bit too much for them, I think. Yeah, maybe they will stop me to fishing. This hobby gonna be my entire life. Yeah, I won't stop. Even I fell into water, it's some kind of adventure. And also for me, when we catch the fish, we need to use our brain against the ocean, to the fish, and to the nature. So it's a big challenge every time when we're fishing, because it's like a box of chocolate. You don't know which chocolate coming. So this is some kind of happiness you don't know. It's like some kind of challenge, and also the mysteries. After my being rescued, the wallet is gone. In Chinese tradition, lose money is to avoid the misfortune. So we're thinking the $2,000 saved my life. Also, the life jacket saved my life.
Wow. That's it's quite intense, especially for someone that's a rock fisherman. Yeah. I'd like to call up our next group of panelists up to the stage, if you can, please. We have Ora Gang, who the video was centered around. He's a rock fisherman. We have Alex Yu, who's also a rock fisherman. Amr Sheba, one of my other fishing buddies, and he's also an ambassador for the program, but he works for TAFE New South Wales as a support officer. We've got Turkan Aksoy. I hope I pronounced that right. And she's the New South Wales coordinator for Welcome Cities. And Mandy Noor. And Mandy Noor is the contract manager for TAFE New South Wales and is involved in the migrant program. Welcome to you all. Ora.
Hi.
Hello. That video, I'm a rock fisherman, so I can feel the intensity of that story and what you were trying to explain. Obviously, the life jacket played a big part in saving your life, because there were other people that died that day. Talk to us how it helped you to be able to get out of that situation.
From my point of view, for this kind of, I think for these events, the life jacket saved my life, and also on that day, I bring my mates fishing with me, so they helped me to call the 000. That's the main reason. Afterwards, when I thinking if on that day I fishing with my own, maybe no one coming to save me, to search for me. Yeah.
So can you describe to us here today or tonight when you first realized something was wrong and you were in the water? What was the feeling going through your mind? What were you thinking? How did it feel?
Yeah, at that time when I slipping into the water, my brain is turning blank, and after a couple of seconds, I'm thinking I need to calm down, and I want to save my life and get out from the water. So I try a couple ways. The first thing is I swim for maybe 10 meters out to see both sides, whether I can swim to the land or to the beach. But unfortunately, it's more than 1,000 meters for the whole cliff and rock. Yeah, and then I also saw is like a rock. I can climb on. So the second thing is I try to climb on the rock, but afterward I think it's also dangerous because if there is another wave coming, maybe smash me onto the rock. But I try. But when people against the nature, we're just tiny ants. When I try to climb onto the rock, after the swell coming, pull me down into the water, just like pull ants into the water. Yeah. So after that, I thinking the most smart thing is to waiting for the life-saving guard. Yeah.
That eventually happened. Is that
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Thanks, Aura.
And I just want to say, maybe after 20 minutes, the life jacket, the float is getting smaller. So at that time, I asked my friend to throw another life jacket to me, because I'm feeling I'm sinking down. The other life jacket flew me up, give me a lift.
So you had 2 life jackets.
Yeah,
with you.
I have
Wow.
2 life jackets on my body. So I think this is the second thing I do. I did the right one.
Wow, you need to give some money to your friend. He's,
Yeah,
I
definitely.
think he saved your life.
Yeah,
that night.
afterwards I host a dinner with all of them. Yeah.
Of course. No, that's great. That's great. Thank you, Aura. Alex, we have a photo of you here, of you fishing, as well as a photo of your tattoo. Can you tell us a bit about that tattoo and the story behind it?
Yeah, of course. So you can see from the left picture that the tattoo is on my right arm. And, the date on the tattoo, you can see a date on the bottom line here is 15th of May, 2018. That was the date accident happened. So, that date, I was fishing on the North Bondi, just down the North Bondi cliff, and it's a golf course. And that is it's like a 6 or 7 in the morning, very cold, very freezing, that day. I was fishing with my 2 friends, and at that day, I can exactly remember that this condition is 1.7 wave and 10 seconds period. So normally, when I'm in the sport, I will check the condition for at least 10 minutes. I will see the wave will come up or not. But that day, I don't know why, I don't know why. I just standing there for like 10 seconds. I think, okay, it's a good day for fishing. So I just start fishing straight away and get all the gear up. And suddenly, there is a huge, I have to say, huge wave come up. And just in front of me, like twice my height. And I was being knocked down by the wave. And, the water comes and the water goes. So I was just being pulled away by the water to the sea. And, like for the first 3 seconds, I was beneath the water, and I think the life jacket just floated me up. And, that day is, it's a huge period. So I try my best to swim back to my friends, back to the land, but trust me, it won't help. I see a lot of people says to me that, hey, Alex, I'm really good at swimming, and you maybe could help with the fishing, but trust me, if you have like such huge wave, the swimming doesn't help. It won't help anything. Like just 10 seconds, the current just pushed me like 50 meters. Only 2 minutes, I couldn't see the land, I couldn't see my friends. So I just stayed in the water for, I remember it's like 28 to 30 minutes, and those 2 gentlemen just driving on the jet boat and just take me, put out from the water, and I was landed on the Bondi Beach. After I landed, I can see the paramedics over there, and was pulled down to the ambulance, and they just told me 5 more minutes, I'm gone, I'm dead. So, yeah. So from this kind of accident, actually told me the first thing is you never fishing alone. You have to go with your mates, with your friends, and the second thing is you don't take any chances. If you see that day is not capable for fishing, you just don't fishing. Don't fish at all. You can see the views, you can see the dolphins, the whales. It's beautiful. Just don't fishing. And also, don't take the chances for any other things if you can't have it on. Yeah. And I think for that tattoo, you can see it's also above the date is a Shimano. Shimano is a fishing brand. Because my life jacket is made by Shimano, so I have the Shimano on. I think two things saved my life. The first is Shimano, and the second is New South Wales Surf Life Saving. And thank you.
Alex, I'm a Daiwa fan myself, but I can appreciate that Shimano saved your life.
I'm thinking to have the New South Wales Life Saving, the logo on my left arm.
Go for it. Go for it. Go for it. All right, Alex. These coastal sessions, there was a high attendance by the Chinese community. Culturally speaking, what sorts of challenges and barriers do you feel exist in the Chinese community when it comes to educating and practicing safe rock fishing?
I think the largest challenge is the language barrier for the Chinese people. Most of the Chinese people are coming from the inland of China. It's the first time they do the rock fishing or the fishing for the salt water, but they have no knowledge to have an idea about how dangerous the ocean is and how dangerous the swell is. So as maybe some of you guys know, I'm the senior manager in the real estate agent, which is the largest Chinese real estate agent. We have more than 100,000 clients database. So we did a knowledge section last year in 27th of November. Alex also coming with us. So, and also Jingjing. So on that day, we invite more than 150 of our clients, or the fisher, to the events to show them how dangerous the ocean is, and also show them the technology, how to use the app to see the swell, the wind, and to prevent getting into the dangerous situation. So I also telling to all of my team member, every year we want to keep doing this kind of educational lectures, to give more and more Chinese background or Asian background clients or our friends to notice about the safety of the rock fishing, and the beach is the most important thing we need to do. Yeah.
Regarding the barrier that Aura just said to us, so it's different culture. So different cultures, people just speaking different languages. So most of people came from like China, are my parents or Aura's parents, everybody's parents, or even the father or even grandfather. They can't understand or speak English. So I think that's the most barrier we have. And also another thing is, regarding the language, is kind of the sense in mind. They don't have that kind of feeling or experience for their own, because from my hometown, there's no sea, there's no ocean. We're just doing the freshwater fishing. For freshwater fishing, you just grab a chair and sit there for a whole day. It's kind of easy way. But in Australia, the kind of rock fishing is huge different. So I think that's a huge barrier between the two cultures and the rock fisher guys.
Yeah, it's great to hear that you're sharing your stories with your communities, because I think that's the important part of it, especially if you've experienced something so traumatic. Explaining that firsthand is powerful. We actually asked the participants to identify what they love most about the day, and one of the responses was, hearing about the real life experiences of others. I often feel like it's every man for himself out on the rocks, but this felt like a bunch of people who love rock fishing and helping each other, who actually care if I live or die. So that was from one of the attendants that listened to Amar's story and what he experienced. Amar, you're a rock fisherman yourself. Can you relate to this comment?
Yeah, sure. But before I speak about that, I would like to say that watching your story brought some flashbacks to me. And getting caught in the middle of the wave, you feel helpless. I didn't fall down in the water like you did. It's almost what happened to Hadi happened to me, but on a bigger scale. I was hit and I was knocked like 10 to 15 meters on the rocks with all abrasions, and there was a lot of blood around, and it was a mess that day. So watching the story again, it brings flashback. Now, to say about that, when you go fishing, you build a community, whether you like it or not. In the past, I used to watch Hadi on YouTube, right? I used to watch Alex Bellissimo. They are legends for me. Now, I'm going fishing with them. I go fish with Hadi. I go fish with Spheros. Spheros taught me a lot as well. So you build a community. When you go to a certain spot, you get familiar with the people who are on the spot. You start speaking, and especially if the day is slow, you start chit-chat with them, having conversation. So you build a community. You are not there to challenge them. And when you watch someone who falls in the water, you can relate in the sense that that can happen to me. In the past, when there was no experience at all, what you can think of, that's never going to happen to me. I'm always ready. I'm always prepared. But in the heat of the moment, when you are least expected, you will get caught. And when you get caught in the middle of a big wave like that, that could be fatal. You can lose your life, right? And one of the comments that I remember it was said to me, it was said that the most hard part of this one is not having the chance to say goodbye, right? And who is going to tell you that? The loved ones. And we relate to each other as fishermen, as rock fishermen. Risks are there all the time, right? But we, as fishermen, when we go, we tend to start looking for each other, right? Sometimes you go on the rocks and you find some people who are less experienced. You will pick that straight away, especially if they have their kids with them, right? You start talking to them. Some of them get the message and they start talking to their kids, especially if there is algae, if there are waves or these things around. They listen and they keep their kids in the safer place. But unfortunately, some don't listen, or some are less attentive to their kids. And I myself have witnessed someone, I talked to him, I said, be careful, it's slippery in here. Don't watch your kids, don't let them jump on the rocks. A minute after, his kid had a broken arm. Yes, okay? So we care for each other, people care for you, but there is one thing, to where they can care for you as much as you are safe yourself, right? But if you are in the middle of the wave, if you are caught, if you fall down in the water, or you are caught in the big wave, what can they do? Nothing. Because if they try to get in the wave, whether they can swim or not, they are not equipped to save you, right? And they will make the situation even more messy if they try to jump behind you to save you. They are not equipped. Now, the services, when they come to try to rescue, they are not going to rescue one person in a bad condition, because mostly, when you fall down, I'm 100% sure you wouldn't fall down in a good day. Most people who fall down, they fall down in a very bad day, like the day I got caught in the rocks, right? So can you imagine the services coming to rescue two people in difficult conditions? Sometimes they cannot clearly see you, especially if it is at night. So there is a limitation to where people can care for you. As long as you are safe, they can teach you, they can talk to you if they are experienced. But if you get caught, you are really on your own. The maximum they can do, they can throw a life buoy for you or a life jacket like your mate did. But they cannot do much more than that.
That's a great point. Amr, just to follow up on that, Mandy, so you've got a considerable experience working with migrant communities and individuals from diverse backgrounds. What sorts of challenges do you see in supporting safe rock fishing practices with these new migrants? For example, just exactly what Amr was saying, they don't listen sometimes.
Yeah, I think there's two main challenges, and they are ignorance and apathy. You know the difference between ignorance and apathy. I don't know and I don't care. So we've already heard about the ignorance, people who've come from inland areas, who've come from other countries where the conditions are very different to the conditions that you'll find in Australia, particularly rock fishing and with the waves and all of that. So that's one of the areas of ignorance. But, I've learnt so much tonight. I'm not a fisherman, as you can tell. And I've learnt so much about the distance between the waves and the wind conditions and so on. There's so much that you actually need to know to be safe and to look after yourself in those situations. And people don't know what they don't know. But the good thing about ignorance is we can do something about it, and that's why this has been such a fantastic project, and that's why from TAFE New South Wales, we've been so glad to support it. We've been promoting the coastal sessions to our students, trying to make sure that we got the word out, right across Sydney with the sessions that were held, in the Sydney area and nearby, and up and down the coast as well, to encourage our students to, attend if rock fishing is something that they do or that they're interested in. Teachers were helping their students to register with the QR code and all of those kinds of things. We also hosted some sessions for our students in the Adult Migrant English program, because I think it's really important not just to educate individuals who go rock fishing, but whole communities, whole families, because they will pass that information on, they will share that information with each other. Apathy is when people don't care. They don't care about their own safety. They don't care about wearing a life jacket. Maybe it's not cool. Maybe they don't think it'll happen to them. And so I think it's been great to have cool people like Hadi and Amr and others demonstrating that, wearing a life jacket is cool, and not only that, but it could save your life. I think there is a case, with Aura's story, that he talked about all the different little decisions that he made on the day that didn't put his own safety first and left him in the situation he found himself in. And that's the apathy, thinking, I've been fishing so many times and it's never happened to me, it will never happen to me. I think that attitude is where people come unstuck.
Thanks, Mandy. Oh, so did I call Mandy? Yeah, Mandy, sorry. My wife's name's Amanda. So, Turkan, you attended one of our sessions at Avoca. It was a really great day, really good food also. What was your experience that day like?
Merhaba. I'd like to start also say thank you for being here. It's always great to be on Darug country. I pay my respects to the elders. It's a heavy time as we lead into the referendum, so I'm very aware of that privilege. Yes, I attended the session. We had a lovely sunny day. And the first thing I noticed was the incredible Nepalese families who were there with their children. They got out a blanket, they set up camp, they were ready to go. And from my experience, having worked in the multicultural space for over 25 years, that speaks volumes to say that community are ready to listen. And it's incredible to see Surf Life Saving are ready to hear what they have to say, and what they've done already by listening to multicultural communities saying, if you're going to teach us about rock fishing and rock safety, make sure we're not in a town hall, we're not in a library, we're not in a church space. We are on the rocks. And that was one thing I loved about it. We were on the rocks. We're out there. Yes, the food was incredible. It was incredible. And yes, there was some language-related issues, absolutely. But people were very happy to be able to touch the jackets, put the jackets on. There was a lot of love for the jackets. I can't say that enough, how much love there was for the jackets. I think they had to bring extra jackets along. But what I really loved about it personally is when we actually went onto the rocks, we saw how slippery the rocks were ourselves with our own feet, because we didn't wear appropriate shoes. We didn't. We should have, but we didn't. Some of us didn't pay attention to the Eventbrite list that said, make sure you wear appropriate clothes. Some of us, I didn't listen. So I felt this really sharp and very, very slippery floors. But But the next thing we noticed is that when we pushed somebody onto the water, which was lovely to see, someone go into the water, and the jet skis came, and they got that person out of the water, we were like, oh my God, look at them, that was incredible. Super excited. But you know what? Someone isn't always there. And we are so humbled to hear your stories and so thankful that you can share these stories with us. It's very traumatic, but the fact that you share to help educate others is such a privilege, and we honour that. So thank you, because through these stories, we're going to keep on learning. We're going to have more of these discussions. Hopefully we're going to get more on sites. I love being on sites, maybe on boats as well once we do the rock fishing stuff, because I just got my boat licence. I want to make sure I'm safe. And I think that it's really important to look future down the track when we are organising events like these brilliant events, that we look at co-creating them. So that way we can pick up the language-related issues. We can pick up that some of the mums came with their little babies and they might have got a bit distracted when these really important messages were being relayed. So there's still a lot of wonderful work, but the fact that you are pumping so much energy, we have 8 new Muslim men who have got their bronze medallion. OMG, that's incredible. I saw the picture with the mayor. Bilal was there with them. One of them is 15 years old. That is going to vibrate volumes. Young other men and women are going to see them and go, you know what, I want a bit of that. I want that community. I want to make sure that when I'm rock fishing, who am I looking out for? Who isn't looking very experienced? It's probably someone like me, not slipping around. I'm going to look very inexperienced, and people are going to care whether I end up in the water and say, hey, you, come here, you're not wearing the right footwear. I want that, because it means that I can go back home. It can mean I can still cook dinner for my children that night. Like, those kind of things really matter, and we just thank Surf Life Saving and the incredible work, the whole water safety people, all of you. It's not just Surf Life Saving. There's so many agencies that are part of this process. I thank you so much for organising that.
Thanks. That's quite a bit there, Turkan. Thank you very much. Look, life jackets, we've been hearing about it all night and how important they are, and they do save lives. But it's obvious some fishers don't follow these instructions. And, we can't force people to do things. So Turkan and Mandy, with your experience with the cultural diverse communities, there's information out there, but these communities are not taking action. What is it about these communities? Is it us? Are we not? Are we missing the mark here, or is there anything else that we could do? Do you think?
Can I just speak at that picture you've got behind you? This is an example of co-creating. So we actually hit up Surf Life Saving or Umrah Life Saving and said, how about we co-create these images? Simple images. One fella's wearing a life jacket and the other fella's not. Simplicity really matters when there's language issues. We are here in Bankstown where there's over 200 language groups just here alone. It's so important to understand that we're not going to understand everybody's language. We're not going to understand everybody's culture. We're not. It doesn't matter how hard we try and how many times we've been to Bali, Indonesia, and Italy. We're not going to understand everything. But the fact that we can lean into co-creating, it's magic. It's lovely to know that I'm going to come halfway. Will you come halfway too? And maybe we can have a shared story. There's just some magic about working things out together. It might initially be a bit messy, but at the end, we all kind of benefit. We all kind of feel those messages, and we eat and breathe it on a regular basis.
Mandy?
I can't agree more. That's really great. Yeah, I think we need to look at where are people getting their information. All I knew about rock fishing is it's dangerous, because all the information I had was from when there were stories on the news. I didn't have anything else to do with it. And so that was the only thing I thought about it. I didn't think it was fun. I didn't think it was, until I met Amr, and then I learned more from Amr.
It's fine. She's my boss.
Until then, that was all I knew. It's dangerous. That would be the only thing I'd know about it. But for our migrant communities, they're not necessarily watching the nightly news in English. They don't know it's dangerous because they're not accessing that media. So we need to look at what are they accessing. And I think the stuff that you're doing with YouTube, I think these videos that Surf Lifesaving has done, and they are in different languages and they're told, you know, from the perspective of people from different cultures is really powerful. And yeah, I think exactly what you're saying, simplicity, a picture tells 1,000 words. The demonstrations that were done, you know, of actually showing what happens when people fall in the water and showing how to put on a life jacket, like that, you know, you can understand that it doesn't matter about the language. But yeah, I think definitely looking at how people look at the world and, you know, what's going to actually speak to them. And one thing I thought was really interesting is how many times you mentioned that your wife wouldn't be happy. In our English classes, you know, 75% of our students are women. But we still do these lessons about water safety, and then we have them go, my husband goes rock fishing. I've seen this happen in a class, and then they take those messages home and they probably have quite a bit of influence. So I think we do need to communicate to whole families and communities. I think that's the key as well.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you for the stories and the insights. Very powerful, and hoping that we can continue on with this great work and work with you guys also in the future. Thank you, guys. Okay. Next on the agenda, I'd like to introduce Louise Lambeth. Louise is a surf lifesaver at Ocean Beach, but she's also a children's book author. Her journey as a children's book author began following a terrible tragedy on the beach. Louise now works with the Surf Lifesaving New South Wales in supporting safety education of young children and families. Please welcome Louise.
Thanks, Hattie, and thanks for having me here as well too. So my role with the Surf Lifesaving Rock Fishing program has been to engage with the families. So this program hasn't just been about the rock fishermen, or the rock fisher people. It's been about the whole family. They've been able to include their family and bring them along, and that's been a really wonderful experience. So we've had a family tent, and it's been a fun space for all, including our team, and our team has been made up of surf lifesavers and beach safety educators. This space has allowed us to engage with families in a relaxed atmosphere, and it's helped us to have important water safety conversations, sharing our knowledge and answering questions. We've also had the walk-by traffic as well too, which has been great, just people going by and saying, what's happening? And we've been able to talk to them and give education as well too. This whole family approach aims to help from further drowning tragedies from happening. I'd like to share a story with you. I've got probably a few stories to share with you today. This one's not my story, but it's an important one that highlights the importance of engaging with families. Many of you may have heard of the tragic incident that occurred at Little Bay last year involving a family originally from Iran who settled in Sydney's northwestern suburbs. Hasti Masumi, her husband Payam, and their 10-year-old son Mayan decided they would go rock fishing at one of their favourite beachside locations. They had not been fishing before and considered it a peaceful activity. To prepare, they purchased fishing equipment and watched some videos on YouTube. They had no idea of the dangers. Mayan and Payam were swept from the rocks within minutes of arriving at Little Bay. Hasti recounts, the ocean was very calm and there was no changing tides. It was a sunny, warm day. I remember they were standing very close to the edge. After 1 minute, when I looked back, I saw no one was there. I rushed to the edge of the cliff, and then I saw my son and my husband, both in the middle of the ocean. Drowning is very, very silent action. I didn't hear anything, any shouting, any screaming, anything. It's really hard to live without them. I never imagined one day I should live without them, and I don't have any other choice. It's really powerful story, that one. It's not mine, but I think we can all sort of feel for Hasti as she's bravely shared her story to help prevent others from, experiencing her inconceivable pain. So many of the team involved in this program are frontline responders who have first-hand knowledge of how quickly someone can drown. I have a story of my own that, as Hattie mentioned, that prompted me to become a children's author to help prevent drowning. In the winter of 2014, my surf club, Ocean Beach, and Umina Surf Club were called out to assist in a search and rescue. A 5-year-old boy had been swept off the beach into deep water by a surging wave. He and his extended family had been playing a game of chasing the waves as they drew back into the sea and then racing up the beach ahead of that incoming wave. That day, the sea was rough. The family did not realise the danger that they were in. When it was time to go, the adults called to the children and turned to collect their bags. The little 5-year-old remained at the water's edge. When the surging wave roared onto the beach, the little boy could not outrun, and he was dragged back into the deep water. Sadly, this search and rescue became a search and recovery. The impact on his family, the first responder teams, and our community was huge, and it still is 10 years later. This experience was a catalyst that made me think of ways to help our youngest community and their families learn about beach safety. This is where my journey to become an author started. And we mentioned earlier that generational change that we want with people. Embedding information with young children is really important because they've got that information as they go forward into adulthood. Since this time, I've worked with Surf Life Saving New South Wales to translate my first beach safety book, Annie in the Waves, into multiple languages. Currently, it's in Arabic, Chinese, Korean, Swahili, and Vietnamese. And this book is helping children and their families learn about basic beach safety. These books will be launched into the communities this year, allowing a far greater reach than we've had before. I have another book that I was grant funded to write, and this is being used by the Surf Life Saving New South Wales rock fishing program to deliver education sessions across New South Wales. This book's called Rohit at the River, and it's about Rohit and his family who are planning to go to the river for a fun day, picnicking, canoeing and fishing. This book has helped educate young children and their caregivers about the importance of learning water safety skills and the dangers found around a river. Rivers, people often drown because they accidentally fall into the water, and that's what happens to our rock fishermen as well too. It also teaches the children to know what to do if they need help. And Rohit at the River highlights the importance of wearing a life jacket. So why do we have children's books? Why is it important? Well, I mentioned it was that embedding that in generational change that we want. Storytelling is a wonderful way to engage children and adults alike. The telling of stories is how humans have traditionally passed knowledge from generation to generation and provides a platform in which to embed information that keeps us safe and out of harm's way. Stories allowed us to ask questions, think outside the box, learn new concepts and share ideas. And when we educate a young child, we also have the opportunity to reach a wider part of the community, gaining access to adults, parents and carers who might otherwise not be engaged through classroom sessions. So these are my first two books, and with the rock fishing program, we've had conversations with Surf Life Saving New South Wales and decided that we would like to bring further books forward that can be the basis of programs for children to learn about safety around fishing. So the first book that I've got coming out in next year, 2024, is a book about rock pooling. It's for children aged 3 to 8 years of age, and it will help children learn about how to engage with a rock platform, but those safety messages that we want them to learn too, about checking the weather conditions, about going at the right time. It's got science in it as well as a story too, and it's being illustrated by Dal Leffler, who's an Indigenous artist, so that's a bit of a coup that he's come on board with that too. But the second book I've got coming out is a book called Tight Lines. I don't know if we've got a picture of that one, have we, Julie? No. I have got a picture of it if anyone wants to see it later on. So that book will be for middle grade. So we don't have very many books that actually teach water safety for children aged around 8 to 12. So this one will be a book based around fishing, a fishing competition. And it's based around Watson's Bay and Camp Cove. I didn't want to put the children on the rock platform because that's not a place where children can safely be. So we sort of brought it just inside the harbour as well. So the main character is a 12-year-old boy who is sick of being bullied. So he vows to beat the bully at his own game. He's going to win the fishing competition and take the trophy from him. But first he has to ask his big brother Jack to teach him how to fish. With Jack on board, Roy is learning fast. But will he gain the skills he needs to beat the bully he calls the bull shark? Interwoven in the story are rock fishing safety tips such as checking weather conditions, safety gear, to always fish with a friend. I think we've heard a lot of this tonight. Letting someone know where you will be and what time you will return, and things like legal sizes and bag limits. In this book, you will also find a mystery, a recipe, a farting sparrow, caring for the environment, and an almost tragedy or two. Will Roy beat the bully and win the trophy? You'll have to wait till the book is released in October to find out. But for now, I'd like to read you an excerpt. So Roy has been learning to fish. He's a bit of a nerd, but he's been learning to fish from his brother Jack. And he's finally going out to try to catch a trevally. Jack wants to target trevally, so we're using pilchards for bait. He reckons trevally are fighters and a good fish which to practice landing. I bait up and move to the end of the jetty. Take a wide stance to keep you steady, Jack says. It's deeper here, so you won't have to cast too far. Aim just short of the orange buoy. Zing! My line soars out over the water and plops right next to the buoy. Nice one, says Jack. Immediately I feel a tug on my line. Another. Take bait, I silently plead. The line goes taut and the tip bends. I feel the drag, zit, zit, zit. My line's running out. The rod tip is flexing. My heart is hammering. I'm pumped. Fish on, I cry. Jack appears next to me. As the spool slows, I lower my rod and begin to reel the fish in. It's fighting hard. Do you reckon it's a trevally? I say, breathing through my nose, my chest rising to draw the air in. Work it, Roy, says Jack. You're doing great. My arms are straining as I draw the fish towards the jetty. Jack crouches in the net, ready to scoop up at my catch. The fish is tiring and rises to the surface. It's silver, with 2 dorsal fins and a hooked tail fin. Trevally, Jack confirms as he reaches to slip the net underneath it. I'm a bit surprised at the trevally's size. It felt huge on the hook, but it looks smaller now that's been landed. Jack measures it. It's 25 centimetres. It's not a legal catch, so too small to record for the fishing comp. Go get your parents, Jack says to the fish, and he flips it back into the water. Let's try some plastic, he says, selecting a lure and attaching it to my line. I cast again. The line rises and drops into the ocean. Bang! A fish takes the lure. My line is burning off the reel. Zit, 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 zit. I yank the rod back and twang! The line snaps, and the rod jerks up. I'm falling, sprawling backwards on the jetty. Oh, the fish has escaped and left me floundering. Ouch, I gasp. What's just happened? I think you hooked a granddaddy of trevally, Jack says as he hauls me up. Next time, don't pull back on the rod so hard. My butt's sore, and I reckon it'll be bruised. I wind the line in. Jack replaces the lure. I'm keen to recatch that granddaddy trevally. He'll be my winning catch. That trophy will be mine. I'll smile sweetly at the bull shark. I cast the lure again, attracting loads of bites and landing fish. They all fight well, but they're too small to keep. Jack drops the line in too, but he has no luck. The granddaddy is gone, and it's time for home. So this story will come out, it's probably about 14,500 words. Surf Life Saving New South Wales will create teacher resources to go with it as well too, and we'll hopefully be getting this into schools and getting it into the hands of young people and starting to embed with them some of the information. There'll be tips all the way through the book about, when's the best time to go out, and the little notes that Roy leaves his parents as well too. And there is a bit of a mystery in it, so I hope you're all hooked, and that maybe October you'll be reading the book too. So thank you for having me.
Thank you, Louise. As a father of young children myself, I 100% agree that they need that education at a young age, and they'll spread that to their friends and potentially their fathers. So also their families is a family activity makes it far more impactful. So thank you, Louise. I'd like to introduce our second short film of the night, and this one is of Yoni's story.
So I must have started fishing here when I was about 9 or 10 years old. Used to sneak down to the Double Bay Wharf to fish, and then that got a bit boring, so we'd come out here. No cleats, no safety equipment. We didn't tell Mum because she didn't really allow us to come fishing out here, but my mate and I would come here most weekends. Today, when I'm in my late 40s and I'm still pretty passionate about fishing, and I absolutely love it. I'm here every opportunity I get. You know, it's a funny mix between a complete exhilaration when you catch a big fish and the skill you need to bring it in and land it on the rocks without damaging the fish, because a lot of the fish we release back into the ocean. And also for the ones we keep, there's a certain pride of being able to put food on the table. Before I even come down, I'm checking the apps to see what the swell period is, how big the swell is, the swell direction, the wind, very important. And I look at that and I know this area pretty well. I patrol here and I also fish here and I swim here, and so I'll look at the apps and I'll see if it's a long swell period. I'll know that I need to look further out to see what the swell's doing. I'll wait a little bit longer before I come down onto the rocks. I'm coming down, and before I'm even getting onto the rocks, I'm standing in a very, very safe, dry location, and I'm looking at the swell for about 10 to 15 minutes. So it's very important to understand both the swell direction and how it's actually impacting the area you're planning on fishing on. Once I'm satisfied that it's safe, I'm putting on my cleats. It's very important to have a pair of cleats for grip on the rocks, because the rocks are a very slippery, watery surface. I put my PFD on and I check that it's fitting properly, and then I make sure that I'm dressed appropriately for the surf. I look at where the waves are breaking and I decide, okay, if I'm going to stand here and fish here, this is probably where I would end up getting washed in, and this is where I would then come out. I always assume I'm going to get washed in when I come down, so I'm always wearing board shorts even on the coldest days. The most experienced people I know have been washed into the ocean. Rock fishing is a dangerous sport. The ocean is incredibly powerful and unpredictable. You need to assume that if you are standing on the rocks near the ocean, regardless of how much experience you have, regardless of whether you're an Olympic level swimmer or can't swim at all, you have to assume you're going to get washed in and that you're going to have trouble getting out. And you absolutely have to assume that you're going to have to find a way out, probably not in your best physical condition. And by doing that, that forces you to look at the rocks and say, if I get washed into the water here, this is where I'm going to come out, because this is where I'm safe. You can't assume that you're going to just jump back up on the rocks and climb out, because that's not the way it works. There've been a lot of near misses here. I myself have never actually been washed in. I have fished in places where people next to me have been washed in. One particular case that comes to mind was there was a gentleman fishing next to me in open top waders, and he was casting next to me on a rock just over there, and he got knocked down by a wave. He wasn't watching the swell, so as that wave came in, I was able to sort of duck in and lean into the wave that was breaking. The wave hit him, knocked him backwards, and as the water came around and rushed back down the rock, it filled up his waders, and he was on an angled rock, and it started washing him into the water, and he was getting so heavy he couldn't actually hold himself up onto that rock. My heart was racing, the adrenaline was pumping. I actually had this whining in my ears, I couldn't really hear much, and all I could think of was how to get this guy back up onto the rocks without actually harming myself at the same time. And look, at that point, all the life-saving training kicked in, so I was pretty lucky, I suppose, that I've had that for a while. I was standing next to him, 1 second he was there, and the next second he wasn't. And then I realised what was happening, and I had to drop my rod and run out and get him. And I sort of had to clamber down a bit of a step, thinking to myself, as I was doing it, right, so if I clamber down here, I've got to make sure I don't get washed in. How am I going to get him up? And luckily another wave came in, I was able to pull him up on the wave and get him to safety. And look, truth be told, I don't think he would have made it had that next wave not come in, because he was getting really heavy and he was not wearing a life jacket. And even if he were wearing a life jacket, I think he may have been too heavy. Like, he could have had an extra 30 to 40 kilos worth of water on him, just filling up those waders. And I think he would have just gone under. And so he was very lucky that, you know, circumstances were what they were and there happened to be somebody else there. And he got out and emptied his waders out and then just kept on fishing the same way. You know, I remember just sitting there going, just breathing really heavily, saying to this guy, and I remember I said to him, "What the hell are you doing? You know, you put a life jacket on, this is so dangerous." And you know, he just didn't really understand what I was saying, and he just kept on fishing. I ended up going home after that. I was actually a bit shaken by it, because on reflection, it was actually quite a close call. I like to think of myself being 80 years old, coming out on small days and fishing for luderick. They say it's an old man's sport, although I have to say I really enjoy it right now. Fishing is a part of my life, it always has been. I still get that high when I catch a fish. It doesn't matter whether it's a big fish or a small fish. I hope to fish out here with my grandchildren one day. And you know, I think we're privileged and lucky to live in a place where the water is clean, the fish are abundant, and they're edible and it's safe to eat them, and the oceans are clean. I see myself being more and more of an advocate for cleaner oceans, for you know, looking after our stock of fish, and you know, doing more and more of this kind of advocacy to ensure not only safe fishing that everyone can enjoy, because I do think it's a wonderful way for us to join. I've made a lot of friends out on the rocks, but also a way for our grandchildren to continue enjoying that by being safe and, you know, having clean oceans and having an abundance of fish to continue to fish and eat.
I can't believe that guy, that bloke kept on fishing. That's amazing. It's the first time I've seen that video, but yeah, I don't know what I would have said to that guy. Far out. Look, I'd like to call out the last and final group of panel up to the stage. We've got Anthony Turner from Surf Life Saving Illawarra. He's a surf lifesaver himself. Bidi Elpik, who's the team leader for Ocean Safety and Lifeguards for the Southern Shire Council. Sergeant Russell Agland, who's a sector coordinator for Port Kembla Water Police. And Brianna Coit, a senior emergency response operator for State Operations Centre in Surf Lifesaving New South Wales. All right, I think we've got the most important people on stage right now. I've got a comment here from one of the attendants of the sessions, when they were asked about the actual event, and I think I read this earlier. This person said the demo at the end showed me how an improperly worn life jacket is practically useless, and also super important to swim away and not back. Something that seems counterintuitive, but is correct. Now, a question to you, Bidi.
Yes.
Bidi? Yep.
Yes.
Look, you've been heavily involved as a first responder to rock fishing incidents and advocating rock fishing safety for years. What are the key issues when it comes to these incidents and fatalities?
Thanks, Hardy. Before I start, I'd just like to say I concur with all of the messages and some of the videos up here. They really hit home, they're really effective, and particularly I'll start with just in answering that question, referring to Yoni's video there. I think it shows that someone who has fished his whole life and has learned, you know, he's not only educated, but he's familiar with what he's done. He's gone from not doing it safely, not using the right equipment, to now understanding and advocating for how important it is. He still fishes and does it in the right way, and it shows how crucial education and knowledge and experience is. And I think that's the key. Spiro spoke a lot about education, and it's definitely a critical part that we see from first responders, and it really hit home to us probably 5 or 6 years ago. We had an era there, or a period of time, where there was consistent, significant rock fishing or boating incidents in our local government area, and we're responding to these incidents with minimal information, minimal knowledge, not knowing where we're going. Some of them are good results, and some of them not so good. There's a couple here that I've worked on patients in near-death situations, and it really hit home with all of us, and questions were being asked. Something's got to be done here, and that sort of started our journey, in our own rock fishing program, and it's great to see all these different stakeholders now come aboard to really promote that education. It is difficult to get the message across to the target audiences, and I still don't know what the exact right answer for that is, but doing these sorts of initiatives and the Gone Fishing days and having all the different stakeholders involved is crucial. We had to actually educate ourselves within our own local area. We're water safety professionals, and we provide a service particularly on the beaches, but we were presented with an issue, rock fishing and boating just outside of our local area. We had to go and learn. We reached out to the Kamei National Parks and Wildlife Service. We actually had to go into these areas to look at what was happening, where they were fishing, where were the dangerous areas, why were they going in. Since then, a heap of work has happened. We've activated areas with support of our local government, with our public safety and security team, support from our mayor, Surf Life Saving, National Parks and Wildlife. We've created additional signage. We've been provided with emergency response beacons from Surf Life Saving. We've got new CCTV cameras out there. So now that these areas are activated, and we're more and more observing, and we can see what's happening, and I can definitely say that there's a change in behaviours. There's still a lot of work to go, and it particularly relies on quality education and awareness, getting a consistent message out to these target audiences, and this type of thing is going to go a long way to doing it. It can't just be a one-off. It's got to be continual. It's got to get bigger. It's going to be strength in numbers. It can't be one organisation. It's not going to be effective. It's got to be everyone who's involved to effectively get that message across and start to really change behaviours and implement this generational change that Feroz is talking about.
Right. Just on Yoni's comment about him being a local and understanding that local ledge, one of the issues is, especially around Kurnell, it's quite a far drive unless you live in the Shire, right? Where do you see is the added danger for non-locals going to Kurnell and travelling a long distance to get to the spot?
Yeah, sure. It's been said before tonight, but it's clearly an understanding or an ignorance of not being to these areas before, not looking up the conditions on the day, potentially going to a really dangerous situation for the first time ever, without even looking at conditions, fishing alone, potentially without the safety gear. It's really a recipe for disaster. It's crucial, that these rock fishers, whether they're new or return visitors, that they actually look at the conditions, they've got the right equipment, and they go to these areas and watch it for at least 20 minutes. At least 20 minutes. It's not 5 minutes, not one set of waves, it's 20 minutes. And think about all of these things. Think about now where am I going to go if I get swept in? Expect to be washed in, like Yoni says. Like, you're not going to be shocked if you do go in and panic and all of a sudden you're in serious trouble. If some of these safety considerations, or all of them I should say, are properly thought about and planned for, it's going to be a huge difference moving forward.
All right, thanks, Beatty. Oh.
Excuse me.
Sure. Go ahead.
Just to add to what Bede said, I help coordinate the rescues and the response for these teams. And one of the really big challenges that we have with people attending areas that they don't normally visit, whether or not that's for rock fishing or just beach visitation or boating, activating a rescue when the informant doesn't know where they are presents an entirely different set of complexities and another delay to getting those urgent resources. So an awful lot goes into the back end trying to determine where people are. When somebody says, we're on 7 Mile Beach, for example, well, where? On 7 Mile Beach, or we drove in, we parked in this car park, but they then walked an hour, mostly north. You know, these things can really affect the outcome of the rescue. So not only not being by yourself when you're engaging in those activities, but having communications plans and the tools to actually reach out, whether or not that's mobile phone, personal locator beacon, those types of things.
Brianna, just on that also, I believe there's a lack of awareness in the community of how many people in different departments get involved in these rescues. Can you just give us an idea of how many people and how many departments get involved in these incidents when it happens?
How long is a piece of string? The size of a response can obviously be affected by factors like the time of day, the time of year, what kind of resources can be deployed, what rescue units are close by. It's very difficult in a really remote regional area where the closest ambulance is 90 minutes away. But we can pick up the phone and get on the radios and have over 100 people easily activated. And they're not all just emergency or public safety professionals. We have a whole host of volunteers. You've got everybody from the person answering the phone or on radio dispatch for the paramedics and the police. You have those first responders that are already out there. You have spontaneous volunteers out helping. You know, we can have hundreds and hundreds of people out searching to bring a single stranger home. It's the best part about my job, and it gives me goosebumps every time. It's amazing.
Wow, that's a bit of insight there, because most of us don't know, unless you've been in that situation, like I think Aura and Alex earlier. Russell, over to you. Now, talk to us about PPE or personal protective equipment. We know it saves lives. It can help to save lives, obviously, and there are many incidents where people have drowned because they weren't wearing one. Where do you believe the role of enforcement and life jacket regulation lies when it comes to PPE, and what are the challenges here?
What do you think I'm going to say?
It's a hot topic. It's a hot topic. There are opinions on both sides. There are.
Interestingly, I actually started my policing career at Bankstown within maybe a 15-kilometre square radius of where we're actually seated now. I've seen certain things that would probably be a really good walk-up start for a Hollywood blockbuster. So with that in mind, I would suggest a tough adversarial approach in terms of policing towards life jackets isn't what we really need. It might be applicable to certain members of the community within a 30-square-kilometre radius of where we're seated now, but I don't think cracking down on people out on the rock platforms for not wearing a life jacket is necessarily the best way to go about it. I think what we're doing here this evening in terms of making people aware and educating and helping people understand the nature of what they actually are getting involved with is a much better approach than having a water policeman, for instance, rock up onto your rock platform and say, you know, here's a ticket for not wearing your life jacket. We're very big in the Marine Area Command with working with the community. If we can educate and save lives as opposed to writing people tickets, we're going to take that avenue every day of the week.
Thanks for that. And anyone else have an opinion on that?
Look, sometimes you really do say, wow, what can we do to try and stop it, right? It can be the fourth or fifth person that people are pulling out of the water and you think, wow, maybe someone needs to legislate against it. But I think you're right. I don't think that that's always gives us the effect that we really want to see. We probably don't want to be penalising people that are maybe not wearing that equipment because of an education gap, financial barriers, those types of things. I think there's other ways that we can help approach it, and it's a bit more holistic. And there's no easy answers.
Just on that, I was actually involved in the implementation of the legislation back in 2016. So it was rolled out across I think it was the Randwick LGA, wasn't it? Yep. Yeah, so long story short, if you were caught not wearing a life jacket on a rock fishing platform in the Randwick LGA, you left yourself open for a ticket. So it was brought out in 2016, and to this day, the legislation is still largely untested, which I think is a good thing, because when people are caught out, they're actually accepting, yeah, I've done the wrong thing, I'm just going to pay that fine. So that's probably a good thing. But so 2016, we rolled out the legislation through 2017. We had a grace period where we weren't actually fining people. We were giving them warnings and saying, look, next time we catch you out here, moving forward from this date, you will leave yourself open for a ticket. So that takes us into 2018. 2018, we had a 50% reduction in life jacket, a 50% reduction in rock fishing fatalities. So, and going back to my whole point before about, you know, tough policing and whatnot, I was actually a little bit against enforcing the legislation. I personally thought it to be somewhat draconian and somewhat tough. You know, if someone wanted to go out on a rock platform and decide that they didn't want to have a life jacket on and they're happy to live with those consequences, then so be it. But when I actually noted, or when it was brought to my attention that the fatalities had dropped by 50% after the implementation of the legislation, I thought, there's actually something to this. And I'm actually quite passionate about it now. So we're looking at rolling it out in the Illawarra. And it's definitely something that my team and I will be pushing up pretty hard on, you know, in the next 12 months.
Hardy, yes, I'd have to agree with that sentiment. We opted into the rock fishing safety legislation end of 2019, implemented our program early 2020. The first 6 months of it was an education program. We were trying to push out, you know, what the new legislation was. We erected new signage, rock fishing safety signage. We'd go out there with public safety officers and lifeguards actually handing out pamphlets about how to rock fish safely in a number of different languages. Similar to what was just said, we 100% noticed both a change in behaviours, and essentially that resulted in a noticeable difference in rock fishing incidents and near misses and fatalities. So I would have to say, in terms of enforcement and compliance, it is somewhat effective. We're definitely not under any sort of mandate to go and try and make any sort of money out of this. It was purely a change in behaviours. We have implemented a few pins, not many. It's been probably 85% warning and education and minimal enforcement through compliance and issuing of pins to people that were just completely blatant, doing the wrong thing, you know, in well-activated areas that were at this point in time known that it was a regulated, you know, activity that just wouldn't be accepted. It was just too dangerous at that point in time.
Well, all those LGAs mentioned, Randwick, Illawarra,
Sutherland,
Shire, I mean, these are all the hotspots. Whenever you see someone fall in the water, it's those areas. So I can see why that discussion has been made and the debate is there. I'll just change the topic from that back to Yoni's story about the impact on the community, the impact on their families. But one that people don't think about is the impact on the rescuers, right? So I think there's a comment there on the slide. If you can put that up, please. Where Beyond Blue published some data around emergency service workers in a national health and mental well-being study and found that 1 in 3 emergency workers experience high or very high psychological distress. That's compared to 1 in 8 for other Australians. And 1 in 2.5 report having mental health diagnosis compared to 1 in 5 in the rest of the Australian population. And more than half indicated that they had experienced a traumatic event that has deeply affected them during the course of their work. So I'll hand this over to Anthony. Anthony, you've been involved in a couple of these rescues and retrievals, and we've had that discussion in the past. Some very sad and emotional incidents. Tell us a bit about what it's been like for you and the impact it's had personally on you.
Yeah, thanks, Hardy. It's always a difficult thing, something to talk about. I've been a director of lifesaving for 4.5, 5 years in the Illawarra. I'm a current duty officer coordinator where I've got a team of support operations and duty officers and 17 clubs, which we work closely with other emergency services and our lifeguard services in the Illawarra. Unfortunate around the Hill 60 area, we've been confronted back in 21. Within a 3-week period, we had 5 drownings. We couldn't believe that we were called there for the first incident, but for the second incident, a lot of our members were still trying to process. It was a roller coaster ride, they said, to be back there in 3 weeks, looking for another 2 people where we were doing resuscitation once a helicopter pulled somebody out of the water. Another team in an inflatable rescue boat were performing CPR. There was a number of police officers in the water and that had been swept across the rock platform as well. So we had a magnitude of, I guess, a multi-agency response where some of them were unaccounted for as well in the water, plus a number of members of the public. After that, we had a hot debrief and we already sat down with emergency services, New South Wales Ambulance and Police, Water Police, and we sat down and we just checked on each other, what we did well, what we could do better. It wasn't a blame game, it was just a check that everyone's mental health, well-being was good. We had plenty of support from counsellors from Surf Life Saving New South Wales. We're checking up regularly with our members and crews. It wasn't just a day after, it was weeks and months processing that fact. I actually grounded myself for a few weeks and just took some time back after being to multiple incidents in that location and just sort of got into a bit of meditation and talking to people. I think talking to people was a great outcome for myself. So I could look after, I guess, my team of lifesavers and other emergency services. We have a good bond down there in Illawarra where we talk to the police, we talk to the water police, regular, Marine Area Command as well. So we have a great bond down there and we really look after each other. Not long after that, 12 months later, we had another incident where a search and rescue turned into recovery, and that went for days, searching for a young lad what was washed off the rocks, and it took a number of days to find that person. So it has been a daunting location with 6 fatalities in that region in 14 months. But when you look, it's a big family. Everyone looks after each other. We take time to, I think talking is the best bet for some people, and some people like to be alone for a while, but everyone's got their, cohorts, how they deal with different incidents. But everyone's got their back, and thanks to, the services of what are provided to our members, we do give them time off and the right counselling needs. So it has been a traumatic and a roller coaster ride during that period, but everyone has, looked up that there has been closure for the families and their friends at them locations.
Thanks, Anthony. That's I can see the emotions coming out of your voice, and I'll open it up to the floor. Is there any stories that you can share that's had a heavy impact on you personally? Obviously, Anthony just shared his. Is there anyone else that want to share?
Where do you start?
We could be here a while.
choose one. Choose one if you can.
I think it's just amazing, first of all, that research has been done and we're here talking about trauma and mental health and resilience and the effect that it has on the wider community. That's amazing. That wouldn't have happened a few years ago. That's pretty incredible. The one that kept coming up for me today, watching everybody's videos and listening to those stories, was actually an incident which was a rock fishing incident that I responded to as a first responder, not in the communication centre, for an older gentleman who was out fishing with his family. They had done everything right and they were wearing life jackets. He just slipped and he fell. And what we found out later, it was quite a remote area, an extended response time for everyone to get there. It was, again, one where over 100 people were activated from all sorts of different agencies. We had helicopters and drones and boats. It was amazing. But this poor family had purchased life jackets that weren't fit for purpose. They did not meet Australian safety standard requirements, and we actually found this poor man's life jacket and it just was not okay. I tried one on that one of the family members gave me to show what he was wearing, what we were looking for, and I'm a really strong swimmer and it was pushing me onto my face. And I think that's my soapbox, is making sure that the equipment that people have access to and are purchasing is really fit for purpose. Those life jackets should never have been able to be purchased anywhere, certainly not here in Australia, in Sydney.
Wow, it's quite a story. What about yourself, Russell or Biddy?
One thing I always preach, I'm a police officer, but I also consider myself a mariner. I've been doing this a long time now, and it's been a common theme through the night. But when you're dealing with the marine environment, I always suggest to my colleagues that we always err on the side of caution. I'm reportable to the coroner, so when things go wrong, we have to come in as police and compile reports and whatnot, and then liaise with the coroner to work out, in the incidence of a deceased person, how that person became deceased. I'm just very cognizant of the fact that we have some children in the room. Are you familiar with the vagal response?
No.
So a vagal response, you see some nodding heads here. There's a little nerve in the back of your throat, and it runs down through your body, and I don't exactly know what it does, but long story short, if seawater can hit your vagal nerve, it creates a vagal response. And without getting too far into it, can ultimately shut your heart down and lead to cardiac arrest. And that can happen to yourself, it could happen to Bede, it could happen to the fittest bloke in the room or the non-fittest bloke in the room. There's no rhyme or reason to it without getting right into the science. And I just always, in the back of my mind, I think maybe it's my turn for a vagal response. So in this situation, I'm going to err on the side of caution, and if I have to wear a life jacket, I'll wear a life jacket. And then also on the flip side of it, we can circumvent having to, have any further trauma imposed upon first responders at the scene, potentially.
All right, thanks. I didn't know that. That's another thing I learned today. Learning quite a bit. Look, I'll put it out to you guys, and thank you for all your work, being in the front line. Sometimes a lot of people forget the amount of effort and the stress and the trauma that it places on you guys out there. Before we finish up, I'd like to ask you guys, where do we go from here? Where should we focus, especially for this particular program, if we do proceed and have another season of it? Where's our focus?
Look, I've been part of this program, going fishing with Surf Life Saving, been invited along. I've actually been blown away, just the amount of positive responses from the community. The people have turned up and just engaged and been just incredibly excited, but in one respect haven't realised the dangers and how unpredictable the ocean can be, and a lot of hazards around rock platforms and the isolation and response times for emergency services to get to these locations. It's been, for me, a learning curve as well to look at the community, how I guess they haven't sort of had the training or the education. And I think, you know, all the partners, the agencies what have been involved in this, it's just been a huge success, and hopefully this program can continue because one organisation can't promote it. It's like you said, it's a huge collective response from all departments and agencies.
Betty, you got a comment there?
Yeah, I agree. Thanks, Hardy. Yes. Look, there's no doubt we're going in the right direction. And like I said, it really, to reach those target audiences, a lot of work has to continue. It can't be sporadic. It can't be, you know, 1 or 2 times a year. It can't be one organisation. It needs to be consistently done effectively to get that consistent message to the target audiences and in numbers, like strength in numbers. It can't be done by one group, one organisation, one alliance, one council, unless everyone's on board and has the same message. I'm afraid it won't be as effective as it needs to be. But definitely this is excellent, and seeing stories like Aura's in particular, the more people that see that, I think it's really going to hit home to those that need it.
That's a great point. Brianna, Russell, last comments from you guys?
I think just increased engagement and consultation is so important. We talk about education and engagement, but it's not just one way. We learn as much in the ways we can shape our responses and increase our body of knowledge, whether or not that's using our technology better or learning about different techniques that are being used or locations people are going. I think that the more we continue to open up avenues for communication, we can continue to learn, and ultimately we're all here for the same reason. We want to return people home safely to their families after enjoying a safe day on the beach or on the coast.
Spot on.
Much in the same vein as my colleagues here. As police, we tend to get a little bit bogged down in policy and procedure. We can be a little bit dogmatic in our approach to things from time to time, and coming to these sort of nights and seeing how different people operate and the different experiences that they have has been really good for me. It's helping to reorientate my mind a little bit, and I look forward to, you know, more events like this in future.
All right, appreciate it. Thanks, guys. Thank you for the insight, and again, thank you for all your work and all the efforts that you've put into to saving people's lives. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, that's my time now. I think it's been a lot of talking and a lot of insights, quite emotional for me actually, being a fisherman, a rock fisherman myself. I'd like to thank you all for joining us tonight. I'll hand it back to Phil to close off the night.
Thanks, Hattie. And a round of applause for Hattie, a great MC tonight and host of all those panels. Really appreciate it, mate. It was a great job. Lots of important messages tonight, lots of really interesting experiences, first-hand experiences. So can I thank our panel members for being really forthcoming, giving their time and experience and the passion which they delivered their messages tonight. Really important stuff, so thank you all. So a round of applause, please, to all of our panellists tonight. The videos that we saw, and there was last year when we did a similar evening, we had some great videos, and the 3 showed tonight, and I think there's 5 in total, Julie, we've produced this year. Our media team does an awesome job working with the community ed team to put them together, and I think you'll agree they're first-rate quality, and I really commend that you take them. We can share them off our Beach Safety Hub, Coastal Safety Hub, and share them amongst your networks, your family, work colleagues. There's some great messages, and coming first-hand from people who've experienced those traumas or had to undertake rescues, I think they're really, really powerful. So I really commend you to use those and share them around. My final thank you to our team at Surf Life Saving New South Wales, particularly Julia and her community ed team. this is one program of literally hundreds and hundreds that they run around the state. So a huge effort, and once again, a quality night. So congratulations, Julia, to you and your team. A super job. So round of applause, please, for Community Ed.